Live and direct from anywhere in the world, it's The Kelly Show with Dr. Kelly Mondesire.
Hello and welcome to The Kelly Show, real people with real stories in real time. And this month, the month of June, we are doing a special series of expert panel discussions coming from Maynooth University at the 4th International Digital Health Summer School. Now, this is the first of several expert panel discussions you don't want to miss. Now, the first one you're going to listen to, and I say listen because we ran into technical difficulty while we were over at Maynooth, and we can only give you the audio version of this panel discussion. So apologies, nothing we could do about it, but have a listen. You don't want to miss this great expert panel discussion. And what's it about? It's about the future of independent, empowered living. So who are the guests? Well, you're just going to have to listen. So stay tuned. Kirsty, take it away. Hello and welcome back to The Kelly Show, real people with real stories in real time. And today we're doing a remote recording here at Maynooth University in Maynooth, Ireland. And we are at the 4th International Digital Health Summer School. And today we are talking about the future of independent, empowered living. And I have the privilege of welcoming the following panelists. They're experts in their fields. And starting over here, this lovely lady over here is Dr. Sangeeta Sahi, who is a pioneering integrative medical doctor focusing on regenerative medicine and longevity, and a global authority on integrative well-being, leadership, and digital ethics. And she is an experienced facilitator for projects related to mental health, technology, and business development. Thank you, Sangeeta, for joining us today.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me.
All righty. And next I have Mr. Mark Hindle, who is the CEO of Tunstall UK and Ireland, and has more than 20 years experience across digital health, connected care, and health technology transformation. He is leading Tunstall's transition from traditional reactive telecare towards proactive, community-based independent living as a service model, combining digital infrastructure, AI-enabled insight, and connected community support. His work focuses on redesigning how housing, health, technology, and local communities work together to support people and to live independently for longer. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Nice
okay, and lastly, we have Kate Handy, who is an esteemed osteopath, Pilates teacher, naturopath, and has run a multidisciplinary clinic in London for over 20 years. She has always focused on trying to find new ways to educate and connect individuals to their bodies and activities, whether it has been by working with rugby teams, work-related upper limb disorders in offices, shoe shiners, or camel dressage. Wow. We have to talk about that. Kate, thank you for joining us.
It's lovely to be here.
Thank you. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
This portion of The Kelly Show is being brought to you by White Wolf Advisory Services. We are the bridge between nations, creating growth, commerce, and collaboration between cultures. Contact us today for more information.
And welcome back to The Kelly Show with our expert panelists here at Maynooth University. So, to start out with, our first thought we're bringing to the table is brought by Mark Hindle. He wants to bring to the panelists this. During the pandemic, communities mobilized remarkably quickly, and Mark would like to explore whether we can intentionally recreate and sustain that spirit of community connection through technology-enabled neighborhood support, community response models, and participative independent living service. So, Kate, why don't you open up the table? Do you have thoughts about that?
I think why COVID worked so well is we were all talking about the same thing. We were all concerned about the same thing. and it was something that affected our whole community. I would love it that health would be something that we could all think of as individuals, but we'd be contained within our communities. And I think the only way that really happens is following the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Yes.
I think if there was some money, the community would get involved, then health would be community-based and individually based rather than making someone else have the money.
Well said, well said. Sangeeta, what are your thoughts?
I think similarly, I tend to agree with Kate. I also think, though, that we have continued. I know in our neighbourhood, in London, we created WhatsApp groups during COVID, and they've continued. The objectives, the commonalities have changed. It's no longer COVID, but because people engaged in community-oriented topics, they've continued those groups. And I think a lot of neighbourhoods have done the same thing. They've continued, but I agree, I don't see much related to health, but definitely related to security issues, related to cleanliness, and general socially oriented issues. I think, and obviously digital platforms have been fabulous in that respect. They've been very useful and very easily engageable. People have taken to them like a duck to water, just like we did with Zoom during COVID.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And Mark, since you brought up this topic, what words would you have to share with the panelists and the viewers?
I think in Ireland there's a conversation here at the summer school around shifting left, and services on the left means closer to home. And I worry that neighbourhood health, I think we've got a vignette perhaps in our mind of the post-war era with bunting on the streets and communities that we weren't connected in that way, and then COVID came along and we suddenly found a way to recreate that sense of community purpose. But service models will fail unless that last mile to the people's homes is also the first mile of care and service delivery, and in lots of communities around the UK and Ireland that's still not the case. And so I guess my question is, and my provocation is, how do we do that? Do we incentivise financially, as Kate suggests? Do we use accessible digital tools like WhatsApp and other things that are commonly available? But how do you put the system on the end of the wire to people in those contexts? That's my ask, and it's actually really quite hard without relying on third sector agencies.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. It's an important issue, and my thoughts are, depending on what country you're in, or what state you're in the case of the United States, this changes the mindset and the modus operandi incredibly. We have the phrase, it takes a village, and sometimes we have to start small and expand and grow out on that village to create the awareness, and also to prove through data and metrics that something so organic as bringing the community together for a like-minded purpose actually can grow to something a lot larger. So thank you for that. So we're going to move on to the next subject, and Dr. Sahi has brought up something very clear and concise. She brings up the topic of holistic integration beyond the body. So, Mark, you take it away, your thoughts, and this is a very organic take on what you have brought up just before. So tell us, what are your thoughts?
Generally speaking, when I think of holistic integration, I'm immediately drawn to the things you said about Sangeeta's profile, lifespan, health span, and the rush for everybody to try to make sense of the signals that we can now have in abundance around what that means for how sleep, lifestyle, and other factors can contribute to people's expectation of lifespan and how they can live long, healthy lives. I don't know what I think about the part beyond the body, though, right? I think that for me is we have to start with basics of how do we ensure people have the most long and fulfilling life they can in a place they choose to have it, and then I can start to think after that maybe about beyond the body experience. But I'm fascinated on the other thoughts.
Okay, Kate.
Well, I took it to mean community, beyond the body. I've felt that was beyond the individual. how can we make holistic health community-based, but maybe our new community should be the company where we work rather than where we live, since that's where we seem to spend more of our time. But if we are thinking about it spiritually, is that what your question is?
Actually, not really. It
No.
was much more spiritualized but physical. And the one missing piece that we've seen in all the research that I've done related to longevity and regenerative medicine is purpose. Once people and groups, communities, businesses have a real clear vision of purpose, everything changes. And it changes really quickly. Because then everything comes together around that purpose. And suddenly there's a common, exactly like we did with COVID, there's a common thing to get together for.
And
Objective.
people being useful.
Exactly.
Sometimes I think purpose sounds very grand,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a little bit intimidating.
Yes.
But I think just being useful or needed or integrated or part of something is a purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be change the world or invent something extraordinary.
I think being a parent is the greatest purpose these days, honestly. So no, I absolutely agree. It wasn't about the scale, it was about the clarity and the consciousness more than anything else.
One of the things in some of the communities we talk to is that being expected somewhere matters, right?
Mhm.
Just being part of something, even as informal as a group. The ikigai kind of concept, right? I love that kind of point of just having a sense of belonging in our gloriously ordinary lives. That's really important.
I keep it simple. You know, I moved recently to a different state, and I'm a loner to begin with. I'm happy with my own company, as everybody knows, but I tend to volunteer for a friend of mine who is very involved with his local church. And I volunteer not because I belong to his church, but I do it for him because he's such a good friend. And I find one of the gifts I have is to make people laugh or smile or give them grief, okay, however, depending on the day. But even if you make the cashier at the local grocery store smile or laugh because you've told them a funny story, or you say, "How are you?" to the customer service rep who's on the phone, and if they tend not to respond in the States, and I repeat again, "How are you?" it opens up a conversation. It makes people feel valued. And sometimes that takes the stress level off that person from here to here because we humanize one another. And I think humanizing one another, making each other feel valued, important, or special in a very simple, organic way is the start of just building on this community as we've been all stating. So yeah, this is a great conversation, and now, okay, Kate, you've brought to the table. Kate would love to discuss with us how we change the culture of health and how we define health through the age groups. So without anybody telling me how old they are, okay, Mark, take it away. What's your thoughts on that?
So I'm massively passionate about us understanding health to mean wellness. So for years we've done health is the absence of disease as our definition, and I think we've now got a better sense of understanding around well-being and prevention. We teach kids healthy habits and behaviours in school in England, but then there's something going wrong somewhere in society when we still have to put posters on the street with sugar cubes stacked up to tell them what good and bad amounts of sugar and how healthy eating is. So I worry we start well when people are really young and young people. Somewhere in the middle I think we lose our way, and I think it's only then when we find some kind of illness that we get back, people get drawn into the traditional system. And so for me, I think building on Kate's question is how do you expand that access to wellness and prevention concept, and then personalising it, which I think links back to this concept of what's my baseline look like, and then linking back to our other 2 points. Then in communities, you can deviation from baseline. We know when to help people and when to reach out for those friendly conversations.
Oh, Sangeeta?
I want to follow on from Kate's last comment, which is follow the money.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we've done with the charity that I founded is food, and the level of food quality available in the UK compared to Europe is very different. And I think there is a responsibility of food companies to address that. It's not just a question of the public. It's not just a question of re-educating them and saying, okay, don't eat this, don't eat that, but it's also making, what are you offering? What can they buy in their local stores that is alternatives? And is that accessible? Is it affordable? All of these things are very, very important. So it comes back, I follow the money. There's a responsibility there.
Well, I'm going to follow that statement to following over here. Kate, comments?
Comments. I think it always goes back to basics. It goes back to education. It goes back to family, community. I think we should be teaching cooking in schools. I think we should make food seasonal so people understand that it can change throughout the years. It can be cheap and then unseasonally it's expensive and it comes from Kenya. And I think that health through the ages is a very interesting concept because we think of fitness as health when we're younger. And then we think of lack of pain as health when we're middle-aged, and edging to the other end, lack of disease. And that's all reactive. What we need to do is start from ourselves rather than respond to what we are and how old we are.
Oh, I agree with that. And I'll say this. The geriatric community, where I live now in the south of the United States, in another life I'm coming back as a cardiologist because I'll have 2 private islands and a couple of private planes. You make a killing down there, literally, because I say, where do these people come from? They're the same age as myself. I'm 64, I'll be very honest. However, they look like they're 84. I mean, my mother was 94, and she looked younger and acted younger than a lot of people in their 70s down in the South. And I say, what happened to the food choices and the lifestyle choices of exercise and good health? And these people are not impoverished. They're educated. It's just a different mentality. And they're hobbling along. They've had many joint replacements, much ado to weight. We know what weight does on each knee and this and this. And I think the education of children across the board in the schools, in the public school service system, especially in the United States, needs to be such that they need to learn about food, to cook their own food, what's in season, primarily to make food and fun and exercise. It's got to be fun. And when food doesn't become fun and exercise is boring, no one wants to do it.
Absolutely.
And I think to get the children while they're young and keep that flow going, keep that momentum going as they go through the aging process, when they get to be in their 60s and 70s, perhaps they'll be still running, playing pickleball, fighting in the ring in their own age group, whatever it is they want to do, skiing, or just enjoying their grandchildren or enjoying travel, but whatever it is, it has to be without so much medication, without so much, for surgery, and without pain. And when they get up in the morning, they won't be doing the shuffle off to the loo. So it's quite a topic that's come up in the United States lately, geriatric health. Does anybody have something to say about that?
I'd just like to say what we have done progressively in the UK is we've made our physical activity, especially in schools, more and more condensed, so it's competitive, it's sport. So if you're not good at it, you don't do it. And so activity and movement is not carried on. It's a bit like playing a musical instrument. You stop it as soon as you finish school, and you stop it even earlier if you're not good at it. But we need to bring activity as something that is enjoyable to do in life, and there are many different ways to be active, and that needs to be carried on with families, in communities, and everything. So as you get older, you're not just doing your hits. I know there's a lot of good things on hits, but that is an exercise class. We need to move as people during our daily life rather than sit all day and then pump it for an hour and think we've equaled it out. We haven't.
Fair point, fair point.
We see lots of frail people in what we do in Tunstall, and the challenge, I think, when you get to a certain tipping point, it then becomes about just preventing a fall. Right? All of the conversation about being active and being in community now becomes about risk assessment, the home environment, and trying to prevent a fall, which then we know has people deteriorate more quickly, and then they have adverse outcomes from that. And so instead of that, this community concept of how do we create the energy, and some of it is money, right? Some of it's definitely money, and some of it is some basic technology, the ability to be able to, if you're in a COPD and you want to go to a walking group for people like people like you might find this type of activity interesting or helpful and accessible. Social prescribing in the UK has been a great success, but the challenge has been when budgets get cut, you both mentioned money, actually it's one of the first things that we get cut. But how do you get co-pay, private pay? People will probably pay to join in, right?
Yeah.
I think also I'd like to add here something that was mentioned in the Shift Left the presentations today is community and movement. We kind of think that innovation and technology will actually make life easier, but then there's also something that gets lost, the social aspect of that, taking a long walk to get water, all those women together. That's when they're arranging marriages for their children, by the way.
Absolutely.
That's when they're also talking about what's the latest outfit, what's the latest jewellery. That's the time when they're really socialising and also sorting out their heads and their domestic issues at home. So that's their therapy.
Yes.
You
yes.
take that away with innovation, you've taken a big part of their life out of the equation. And I think those are some of the things that we need to be very sensitive and aware of, is the nuances of cultures and the nuances of social engagements. It's coming back to what you said earlier, Dr. Kelly. It's about humanizing, coming back to being human.
Thank you. Well said. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Does anyone have anything else they would like to add to the conversation? Any comments on something one of your fellow panelists have said? Going once, twice.
I could go on forever, but no.
I think it's all connected. I think it's
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all
I
connected.
think these community connected to how we see each other and how we treat the human condition. Right? I think making sure that it's not all about technology is really important.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. This was really nice. It was such an organic flow, and I want to thank all of you for being here and taking time out of your precious day. It's been quite the adventure here at the summer school. But folks, I want to thank you for watching The Kelly Show, and stay tuned because part 2 of our series here at the Maynooth University for the 4th International Digital Health Summer School is going to be the future of female leadership in healthcare. So stay tuned for the next The Kelly Show, real people with real stories in real time. And Kirsty, take it away.